Welcome to Homebuyer Summer. I'm Bill Gross, eXp Realty, along with my friend and colleague,
Patricia Castillo.
and our good friend and colleague and lender.
Shannon. How's it going, guys?
And we're here to help you buy your next home or your first home with a Homebuyer Summer. We review all the issues on buying a property. I got to tell you, even though we were just chatting before we started recording, that interest rates have gone back up a bit and given back some of the decline of the year. We're actually at the midpoint. We went from 7% down to 6%, and today we're coming to 6.5 range. So we gave back about half of it total. Still busy. I got lots of offers. I got lots of showings. Patricia, what do you see going on? Are the rates stopping the market? Is the market falling apart? Is the sky falling, or are things still pretty busy?
Things are still pretty busy. I mean, the rates just kind of inched up today to 6.5%, but it'll take some time before buyers actually pull back. And maybe by then, the interest rates will start to come back down again. So I know we're busy. We have listings going into escrow. I'm writing offers on other properties, scheduling showings. So buyers are still actively looking, and especially in the market that we're in, it just seems like it's always, there's always movement here. So which is good, and I see a lot of pent up demand. So buyers that have been waiting are now starting to kind of come off the sidelines, and there's new buyers coming into the market as well. So, and I think because there's so many, there's different ways now that we can qualify a buyer. It's not just a traditional, pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns. There's different types of financing programs that are available for independent contractors. Um, Now that we have things like side hustles like Uber, Lyft, things like that, these are buyers that have money that's saved up, right? They have their sock money stuffed away, and they want to buy a home. And Shannon has a really great example of a buyer that stashed his money away. I think he saved over 100,000,
Hmm.
and he's an independent contractor. Um, I met him today because I was helping him with the notarization of his documents, and so I learned, a little bit about him, and it's just very inspiring. A lot of buyers are working different side hustles. So they may have their primary job, they may be bartending, Ubering, different uh, different professions to save money. And so because some of these jobs may be cash, like a construction worker, for example, we can use different types of loan programs. So I think that was one of the topics that we were going to touch on today was how can we get a buyer pre-qualified if they don't have the traditional 40-hour a week job, W-2 and pay stubs and full tax returns.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to follow up on that, that's right. I mean, I'm seeing right now, especially with the job market, people are moving into this gig economy, and so for business owners out there or people who are independently contracted, whether you're an Uber driver, right? Whether that's a great example. Whether you do construction, I see a lot of that where you're a construction worker, maybe you're an independent contractor for a few different companies, right? And you don't traditionally, do your taxes, and you can't show how much exactly you're making because maybe some of that's cash too. That's another thing, getting paid cash. So there's a few ways business owners can get qualified and independent contractors can get qualified. One, you still can go FHA and conventional if you, but they're going to go based off of your profit, what you make. Typically, if you have a Schedule C or a K1, they'll go based on the last 2 years of what you profited after all your deductions. I think you can add a few things back, but not too many. But they're going to go based on that profit number, right? Whatever you say you profited, not your gross. A lot of people think, oh, well, I grossed 300,000, but if you only put that you profited 30K for that year, they're going to go based on that 30K number, and they're going to go back the last 2 years, combine those two numbers, divided by 24. That's 24 months, and that's your monthly income. Now, if for you write off a lot, I see a lot of that, or you let's say you haven't done your taxes in a few years and you still want to buy, there's different options for you. There's one, you could go conventional. And conventional, I think if you're in business 3 to 5 years, they'll go based on 1 year tax return. So that 1 year you can really just, you know, minimize those deductions, and it'll go based off of whatever you put for that year. For this time, it'll be 2025. if you still don't want to do that and you don't want to even file your taxes, then, or let's say you're extending them, right? Because you should always file your taxes. I'm never going to tell you don't do your taxes. But if you're extending them, or maybe you have a lot of deductions, there's two other options that we have. One, they can go based on your bank statements. So if you are depositing this income in your bank statements every month, the bank will go based on your last 12 to 24 months of your bank statements, average out those deposits, and they'll either do one of two things. They'll divide it by half and say the first half is expenses, or we can get a CPA to vouch for, hey, your expenses are only 10, 20, 30% of your deposits. And they'll pretty much average out how much you're depositing, take out that what's called expense factor, and that's your income. And as long as your debt and your mortgage payment is no more than 50%, they'll do it. Now, what's the catch? I'm glad you asked. The catch with the bank statement program is...
What's the catch?
Yeah, the catch is you have to put 15, and in some cases I can get exceptions for 10% down. Instead of the normal 3.5%, 5%, they're going to want more money. And I tell people this, look, the bank is taking more of a risk because they're asking for less documentation. So to offset that risk, they're going to want you to have more skin in the game, and the rate's going to be obviously a little higher. Now, those are for people with bank statements. Now, I have some people that, hey, I have cash deposits, or I have different bank accounts, and it's just going to get too messy. Well, I do have a program that they'll go based on a profit and loss statement. Now, a CPA has to sign off on it and say, hey, look, this is right, this is true. You can't just make it up by yourself. You have to have a CPA to back you up on it. But they'll pretty much take your profit and loss and say, this is how much we make, and they'll just take your word for it. Now, you have to have a 700 FICO and up because they want to make sure, hey, you're a trustworthy person. But you have a 700 FICO, your profit and loss says you make, whatever you make, and as long as that number every month is double whatever your monthly mortgage and expenses are, you're fine. Now, the catch with that one is you have to put 20% down, right? So the less documentation you provide to the bank, the more down payment that they're gonna require of you. But for example, this client, he in his job, sometimes, actually majority of the time, he accepts cash. And I just can't use that. I can't use that as income. I can't just have a piece of paper or show the bank a picture of your wad of cash. I can't do that. So what we had to do was go profit and loss and have a CPA review it, sign off on it. And he had the 20% down, like Patricia said. He actually saved up close to $150,000 and was renting a room. He was subleasing from somebody, which was a whole mess in itself, right? But he was leasing from someone else who was leasing a property, and he rented a room. He started this business, saved up $150,000, and now he's getting into his own home. And yeah, he's super happy about it. And again, other lenders told him he couldn't do it because, again, he was getting cash. He couldn't really source that. But again, this is a benefit of working with a loan broker, is because, again, I have a plethora of options in terms of funders and banks that have different appetites for different things. And my loyalty, again, is not towards the bank, it's towards you, the client. So if whatever you throw in front of us, I can tell you right now, there's a way for you to get qualified. Even if it's not now, I can figure out a way to get you qualified. But for business owners, there's options for you. The question's going to be, is the down payment and the credit, right? The income qualification part, we got down, right? It's either tax returns, bank statements, P&L, one of those. Even there's VOE only, too. I forgot to mention that. So construction... there are FHA VOE programs. I don't like to talk about it too much because these banks come and go. They're very finicky, but there are some programs like, and for good example is I did have a painter. He worked for a bunch of construction companies, and they were willing to sign off and give verification of employment letters, even though they pay him under the table. They're willing to sign off and say, hey, this is how much I'm getting you. I'm giving you a month. And we can go based on that. And sometimes FHA will take that. So just because you're not filing your taxes, or you're filing your taxes, you have a lot of deductions, don't get discouraged. There are ways, and banks have adapted to this new gig economy, quote unquote, to get people like yourself qualified.
Now, just to clarify, when you say cash, there are people who accept cash at their business but deposit cash into their business account. That's not what we're talking about, right? If you have a restaurant, you have a business laundromat where you every day get cash, and then you take that cash and go to your bank, Wells Fargo, B of A, and you turn in the cash, however that gets done, that's going to show in your bank statement, and those cash deposits are like any other deposits in any other business. What you're referring to is a business where maybe the cash deposit and the person doesn't put it in because they don't report it. And so I think in those cases, really, in order to buy a house, if you're not paying the taxes of that money, you should be saving additional money, right? If you're not writing that check to the IRS and to the Franchise Tax Board, then you should be saving it so there's something with the money. If you're living on the money you should pay in taxes, you're really on borrowed time and probably can't afford a house. And that's where it gets down to when somebody puts money away and has $100,000. That's why these programs exist, because these guys are diligent, hardworking, and they're gonna pay the bill back. They're gonna pay the mortgage back.
And you make up a good point, Bill. And I actually get this a lot with my clients in terms of, should I pay Uncle Sam or should I save it? Now, on record, you should always pay Uncle Sam, right? I'm not gonna openly say don't. What I will say is I do have clients that say, hey, these are my deductions and I truly, make X amount. Should I, bump up my income on my taxes, pretty much say I'm making more than I am to qualify for a 3.5% down mortgage? And I kind of stop people there and I say, look, are you gonna pay taxes on this, or can that money go towards your equity? And you're pretty much saving that money on your equity. So yeah, you're gonna have to put more down, but that money's not going anywhere. That money's into your equity. Because I have a lot of clients say, well, I'm gonna beef up my taxes. I'm gonna put that I make more than I really make, and just pay the taxes and give the 3.5% down mortgage. But when I do the numbers, sometimes the math doesn't going that direction. Sometimes it's, hey, why don't you just, whatever you're gonna pay, overestimating your income, put that money towards your equity, right? And that way, hey, that money's in your house, because once it goes to Uncle Sam, it's gone. Right.
When I started this business in 1986, so I guess 40 years ago, it was common that accountants would prepare for you for self-employed 2 sets of tax returns. It was common. The one you filed, the one you used to get loans. And I remember somebody offered me that, and I thought, well, what are you talking about? Now, in my case, I always worked in the mortgage industry. I started, and my money got 1099 or W-2, so it was going to get counted. So why would I do tax returns that show something else? Well, the expenses I'm claiming the IRS on the other set, we just didn't claim all those expenses, so it looked like I had more profit than I did. Well, that's tax fraud, and I know people have been to prison for that. So that's not what we're talking about here. And nowadays, the lenders have a form where they can check your taxes to make sure the forms you're giving them are legitimate. So that business is kind of stopped. What we're talking about here is how aggressive you are, and there's interpretations on writing off meals and travel and expenses. Like, for example, when I go to Florida for a seminar and I bring my wife, some of it's tax deductible as a business expense, some of it's not. And how aggressive are you on those things? And some people are very aggressive. So it's really having a strategy that works for you, and that's maybe why you should talk to an accountant to get that, if you're able to, get the right strategy for yourself, because this isn't a decision you make yourself lightly. There's consequences. Number one, you don't want to go to prison. Number two, I think also you want to have the right strategy that you worked at. I know for me, it just made sense I am aggressive because I wasn't looking to buy a house for a period of time. And if I buy a house, it's going to be, with a large cash deposit, and I can get some other, I'll pay a premium on the mortgage and put more down payment, but that's the price I pay to, reduce my tax burden. But get good advice. Don't make these decisions half-heartedly. I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely talk to a CPA. And I actually didn't know that overestimating and paying more in taxes is tax fraud, but it makes sense. Yeah, do not do that. And I always encourage my clients, don't do that. And also, too, what Bill said, even if you give us a different set of tax returns than you actually file, the bank is required on any FHA or government-backed loan to pull IRS transcripts.
Right.
So they pretty much pull the IRS tax transcripts for you. You actually sign a document stating that they can look at your tax transcripts,
right,
and pull them up, so to see if they match or not. So yeah, that is for sure a thing, and you just can't do that. I actually had someone try that on me too. It was a little bit embarrassing when I was fighting with the underwriter, actually, right, saying, no, this is what I have.
Right.
You're wrong. And she showed me the tax transcripts, and this is how I found out about it. This is my second year in business, and I asked him about this, and he's like, "Well, you just told me I needed to show tax returns." I said, "Yes, I didn't know that they were not legitimate, right? Like, they're gonna. This is FHA. They're gonna check this." He's like, "Well, you told me all I needed was to submit were my tax returns, and so I have to." Do some more. I do always do a disclaimer saying the tax returns that you file, I need them. So yeah, I haven't had that since, but someone again was reading between the lines. So
yeah, the lender's going to go through the checks and balances, and things have to match up.
When I was in the mortgage business about 10 years or so, and I was kind of top producer in my area, I had an office, and I had a couple of real estate offices I worked. And one of the brokers called me and said, "Hey, you need to check out this gal. She's just cleaning up in here. She's doing almost as much business as you are. Maybe you need to recruit her or find out what she's doing." So she was a competitor. So I called her up, invited her to lunch. Nice gal, sweet, new immigrant. She only been in the country for a year, heavy accent. So she was obviously working with realtors who were similarly immigrant, same language, same culture. Okay, that's fine. That's an advantage to use. But so I remember as we're having lunch, I said to her, "I'm just curious. You're doing so much business. You're doing so well. What do you think you do that the other lenders aren't doing?" And she said, "Well, I help my clients get jobs." And I'm thinking, listen to this lady. This is fantastic. Like, I imagine she had like a job placement where she had immigrants come in and she's helping them find jobs, and then they're indebted to her and they buy a house and she does a loan. I said, "Really? So you have like a placement service?" She goes, No. If they come here and they don't have a job yet, I just send them to my accountant friend. He does a set of tax returns for them and W-2s, and they qualify, and then they call his office and he does a verification of employment. I'm like, oh, that's fraud. That's all. So here I'm thinking on one hand, wow, I'm really admiring her commitment to her profession. I realized, no, she's just shortcutting, and then she eventually
Facilitating.
Yeah, then she eventually ran out of steam, and she got some free bracelets that weren't the prettiest bracelets in the world. So there you go. We don't want to do that. Okay, so overall, how's the market? I don't know. For me, like, wow, every listing, when's there an escrow people calling on? What do you see, Patricia? What do you see, Shannon? What do you see?
Yeah, things are escrow. I have buyers calling, investors calling. I think investors are a little squeezed right now because they're trying to compete with even buyers that are also looking to buy homes that need some repair. Buyers are now kind of seeing past some of the deferred maintenance, and they're willing to come in and paint the home and do some work as long as they can get it at a good price. And some buyers may not qualify over a certain amount. So they are, basically they're okay with buying a home that needs some work. And then you have the investors coming in that are also trying to compete with those buyers that are trying to get properties, coming in cash, $200,000 under the list price. I mean, I did a video on that when I was at the open house in Inglewood, and I said, "Hey guys," because I have investors DMing me on Instagram asking me to write the offer, and if they can get it at this ridiculous price. And I said, well, no, why would we do that if there's a buyer that's going to pay more of a realistic price?
Yeah.
So
in this market, investors have to do something that creates value. Typically, adding square footage, in that neighborhood. That's the listing we have in Inglewood. Together, we worked on. It's the smallest house. It has a decent sized lot in a really desirable area. I mean, all kinds of neighbors have called me on that listing. And an investor is going to buy that and add a bedroom, bathroom, clean up the layout a bit, maybe add a second story, maybe add an ADU or something. But they're not just going to buy it and flip it. Those investors are being overbid by people who will buy it and live in it. And so there's a lot of very intense pressure from those, I say wannabe investors, call me as listing agent, insisting they want to move quickly. They want me to represent them. They promise me I can list the property when they resell it, which is a bribe, basically. Cheat your seller and get me that property so I can help you make more commission dollars. So that market, I think, is coming to an end, and really, investors need to kind of sharpen the pencils and find ways to create some value. So, okay, so Shannon's for somebody who wants more fun with Shannon, more time with you, more help on their finances. How do they get a hold of you, or what do you have going on?
Yeah. So they can reach out to me 661-317-8484 or my Instagram FUND Fund with Shannon, where we post rates daily. And what do I have going on? I mean, we have a few escrows still pending. Patricia helped me out with one, and I don't know if you guys heard the news about FHA and conventional pretty much lowering their credit requirements. But for the first time, I actually got a desktop underwriter approval for someone with a 524 FICO. So that's actually real now. So, but now here's the thing. Here's the catch. I got a DU approval. Now I got to get a bank that actually will take it, right? Because having a DU approval is one thing, and then now having a bank take it. But I might have found one that could do that. So, I heard the news a few months ago. I think it was a few months ago, right? But now it's starting to become a reality. So even though I don't personally recommend buying a house with its lower FICO score, are these people still going to pull the trigger? Yes. So not that I'm going to promote, again, bad credit and buying an asset, but it's out there now. It's out here now. I never would have gotten this DO approval before. So I can tell you firsthand, they're loosening up the guidelines. And yeah, I think I had 3 pre-approvals this week. And so people are not stopping on the buy side for sure. I think that Patricia's right. There's pent up demand that's coming out still.
Great, Patricia. So I get a hold of you. What do you got going on this weekend? I know you have 2 open houses this weekend, I think.
I have an open house at my listing in West Covina.
South Hills, I think.
I'm sorry?
South Hills, part of West Covina.
West Covina near Walnut.
Nice area.
It's near the city of Walnut. So it's very, very nice neighborhood near Nogales High School. So it's 579,000, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car attached garage. If anybody's interested, there'll be an open house this weekend. So you can contact me for details, 323-365-9909.
Fantastic. I'm Bill Gross. I got listings all over. A whole bunch of people helping us win this weekend. We have one in Inglewood. We have one in LA on Gramercy. We have one in Moreno Valley. We had 2 properties there. One went to escrow. One's being held open. So if I can help in any way, please reach out at Bill Gross Probate and social media. On behalf of Patricia and Shannon, thank you so much for joining us for Home Buyer Seminar. We do a new episode every Friday. We launch it. And please send us any comments, questions. If we can help in any way, reach out. Thank you so much, everybody. Make today your best day ever. Thanks.
Bye.